Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. 4 more days and we have a holiday. We're reaching the end of the second term. So, end of a minor era. First thing I want to talk to you about this morning is discipline. And it's going to underpin the theme of the assembly as well and our PSHE lesson for today. Although in many respects, I would say I'm, of course, very happy and very proud to be head of secondary at BISC. And I see every day wonderful young people in front of me. And most of the time, I would say it's a joy to work with you. But there have been some occasions, particularly in the last week or so, where I have been quite disappointed by some of the conduct and behavior of some of you. Now, I must tell you that a few things are completely unacceptable in our community. One thing which is completely unacceptable is gender-based violence. Now, that may sound like an extreme way to put something, but if a male raises his hand to a female, it is completely unacceptable in life. We are a British international school, and whether we look at it from the perspective of the British values or from the perspective of being an international community, violence by a male against a female is completely unacceptable. Violence of any kind is not acceptable, but this is particularly a type of violence which we cannot tolerate at all. So be mindful of the fact that if you are a young man and you raise your hands in violence against a girl or a woman, you will be punished severely. Particularly if you are older. There is no excuse for anyone who is 14 and above. Now, this does not excuse those of you who are 11, 12 or 13, but I'm saying the older you are, the more responsible for your actions you become. So do not raise your hands to a female at any time. Now, of course, if a girl is violent against a boy, she will also be punished. But it is not the same thing. And if you need me to explain it to you, I'm happy to explain it to you. You do not raise your hands against a female if you are male. Also, something which is intolerable and we will not accept in our community is bullying. I will do PSHE lessons on bullying, and it's an important issue we need to take more time to reflect upon. But in essence, bullying exists if a person feels that another human being is making them feel sad or uncomfortable, or if they are not safe. It is basically based upon the perception of who could be called the victim. So if someone comes to me and says that they are feeling uncomfortable or sad because of someone else's actions, then that can be, after investigation, considered to be an act of bullying. So, if in any way you are targeting an individual and making them feel sad or uncomfortable in your actions, you will, of course, be warned, you will be counselled, but if it continues, again, you would not be accepted in our community. So really think about your behaviour and the effect that it has on other people in our school family. We are a family, so we do not hurt one another. And that hurt is not just causing physical pain, it can be psychological or emotional. It is not acceptable to make anyone feel unsafe or unhappy. And finally, all forms of fighting are unacceptable. If you have an issue with someone else, you have to handle it properly. You have a number of teachers who you can talk to if you require to hand on information about an incident. Do not let it fester. Do not let it develop so that it leads to acts of violence, because then you are likely to be excluded from school. There have been incidents recently which have been wholly unacceptable, where people have behaved in a way which we will not accept in our school. I'm not going to go into details, of course, and I'm not going to name names. Some of you won't be aware of what I'm talking about, and that's okay, but just understand the message. Physical violence, fighting is not acceptable. I understand that there is a culture where you don't tell tales on one another, and I actually respect that. I think that shows that you have values of camaraderie and a spirit whereby you stand up for people in your class. But at the same time, many of you will have heard me talk about the line in the sand. If something is going to lead to violence, you need to do something to stop it. And that may include talking to your form tutor, to Miss Rasha or myself before things get out of hand. Because what inevitably happens is people get into more trouble and can even be us to leave our community because somebody else didn't intervene at the right time. Now, I really don't like to end this term with such a negative speech, but it needs to be said. You need to understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in our school community. You have a week break coming up at the end of this week. It's time to think, it's time to reflect, and to think about how your behavior impacts on yourself and on others. So our assembly is going to focus on self-discipline. Now, this self-discipline could be applied to maintaining your temper and not losing your temper, not engaging in acts of violence, etc. But we're also going to think about it in the context of our academic work. It's very important that you develop self-discipline when it comes to completing tasks in class, completing homework assignments, and preparing for examinations. Now, some of you already have intrinsic motivation. You want to succeed because you see the value in success. Others of you find it difficult. You need to find motivation from elsewhere. You know the value of being educated, and you know the rewards that come from being able to complete assignments, achieve, and go on to achieve by passing examinations, which will get you to the destination which you hope for, university, and the best job that you can imagine. If you are not intrinsically motivated, you really need to think about ways to develop your self-discipline. So we're going to watch a few videos which focus upon how you can develop your self-discipline and how you can become more disciplined to do things even when you maybe think that you don't want to do them. Often we procrastinate. Procrastinate is when you put something off to another time. I do it myself. Even before creating this PSHE lesson today, I cleaned my apartment because I knew I had work to do. It's not just this, I've got plenty of other things to do. So I did lots of other things first. I know I've still got to do the big tasks because I know they've got to be done for first thing on a Monday morning. But I find other things to do first. And many of you will have that same experience. You start to do things and you actually convince yourself that the things that you're doing need to be done now. Oh, I must do this. I can't put this off. I need to make this TikTok video. I need to put these selfies on Instagram. No, you don't. You need to get your head into the books and you need to revise and you need to prepare for the examinations which are coming up. And if you're in year 9, your checkpoint examinations begin almost immediately when you return to school on the 20th of April. If you're in years 11 or 12, you have your examinations starting just after we return from the Easter vacation. And if you're in year 13, obviously you're preparing the evidence which needs to be presented to the examination board to secure your A-level grades. So you all have a lot to do. I maybe didn't mention a couple of year groups, but again, you've got to get the mindset going now. You need to develop what we'll talk about later, a growth mindset, and believe that you can achieve, you can do. So as they would say in American English, to develop a can-do attitude. You can do it if you convince yourself that you can. So let's see some of the science which goes behind developing self-discipline.
The importance of self-discipline, the foundation of success. What is the meaning of self-discipline? Self-discipline is having the ability to make yourself do things or complete things even when you don't want to. Why is it so important to have self-discipline? Success has been linked to self-discipline. In fact, many successful people contribute their success not to intelligence, but self-discipline. Why is success so strongly linked to self-discipline? Self-discipline is considered key as well as required for, first, accomplishing things and completing goals, second, for developing healthy habits and breaking bad habits. Why is discipline important for completing goals? Completing goals is not easy. There are a lot of distractions and obstacles in the way. Therefore, to accomplish goals, you need to work hard. You need to be persistent. You need to stay focused. All this takes self-discipline. Why is self-discipline important for forming healthy habits and breaking bad ones? In order for you to form or break a habit, takes controlling your behaviors and being persistent, which takes self-discipline. The big question, can self-discipline be improved? Yes, because self-discipline is a skill. We are not born with self-discipline. Instead, it is learned and developed over time. Now, let's look at some strategies on how to improve your self-discipline. First, select one small goal to accomplish. Self-discipline is easier to develop if you focus on one goal or thing at a time. It is best to start off with very small goals and work your way up to larger, more difficult ones. Every accomplishment will teach you a new skill and strengthen your self-discipline. The second strategy is you need to visualize the desired outcomes and the rewards. Being disciplined requires delayed gratification, meaning you must forgo immediate pleasure for immediate suffering. To deal with the suffering, you need to visualize the benefits and the rewards. Thirdly, you need to create a just do it, no excuses mindset. Being disciplined is a mindset. You must put aside those excuses and get it done. For the fourth strategy, make sure you recover and you learn from your mistakes. When developing self-discipline, mistakes will be made. Learn from these mistakes. Look for why you failed. Was it temptation, distraction, weakness, or was it all of them? Just because you failed with self-discipline in an area doesn't mean you give up. You need to be persistent. Next time, look for ways and how you can avoid making the same mistakes. For the final strategy, when building self-discipline, you need to have self-confidence. It's a lot easier to accomplish something when you believe you can do it. In fact, it has been shown that successful athletes that have strong self-discipline also have a high level of self-confidence. A few final thoughts. Remember, self-discipline is an essential skill that will help you. It will help you create healthy habits, accomplish your goals, achieve your dreams, and ultimately be successful.
Self-discipline. The only thing you need to combat procrastination. When you are struggling to pull yourself out of bed, self-discipline. When you're struggling to drag yourself to your desk, self-discipline. When you're struggling to start writing that assignment you've been putting off for weeks, self-discipline. I receive emails every day asking if I can help them with procrastination. And I can coach them and teach them 101 different study methods and memorization techniques and productivity hacks, but it's all meaningless without self-discipline. There's no magic wand that I can wave that will magically make you study. You have to do it yourself. You have to make yourself do it. You see, motivation is temporary. You might watch this video and be motivated for the next 30 minutes, or 3 hours, or 1 week, or even a month. But eventually your motivation will fade. And that's okay. That's completely normal. Your motivation can and will go up and down. But when your motivation starts to fade, that's when your self-discipline kicks in. That's when you need to force yourself to get up and study. And it's at this point that a lot of students fail, because they rely on motivation to carry them in the long term. But that's not how it works. I learned this the hard way. For years, I would get short spurts of motivation, and I'd study like crazy for days or even weeks on end. But as soon as that motivation started to dwindle, I just didn't have the self-discipline to back it up. So I would quickly slide back into my procrastinating, lazy self. But I managed to shift my mindset. I managed to train myself to slowly but surely, over the course of a year, build up my self-discipline. I used to find it difficult just studying for 30 minutes without losing concentration. Now I can study for 14 hours a day, and it's actually relatively easy. So, how did I fix my self-discipline? How did I manage to build up my self-discipline and train myself to study even when my entire body was telling me that I should go back to the comfort of my own bed? There were 3 super easy but effective steps that I took. First, I removed distractions. I noticed the biggest thing distracting me when I was studying was my phone, that I usually place right next to my laptop. Whenever I received a notification, I would stop studying and check my phone. It's such an obvious thing to do, but for years, my phone was a huge reason why I procrastinated so much. So, I started to hide my phone behind my laptop screen, so I couldn't see it when I was studying. Out of sight, out of mind. And it worked. Another thing I realized I was doing was that I was waiting to feel ready to study before I actually started studying. So I kept putting my studying off for hours because I never felt ready. And before I knew it, it would be the end of the day, and I still hadn't done anything. So, I made my studying a habit. I would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I would go straight to the gym, and then I would go straight to the library. I would do this every single day, even on Sundays. I wanted to train my brain into knowing that this is just what I do now. When a behavior becomes a habit, we stop using our decision-making skills and instead function on autopilot. At first it felt wrong. Your brain will resist waking up at 5 a.m. But eventually, you will program your mind into accepting it, and it will start to acknowledge that it's right and natural to wake up at this time. And that's exactly what happened to me. At first it was difficult waking up at 6 a.m. every morning, but you'd be surprised at how easy it started to become after just a few weeks. I made sure that I was asleep by 10 p.m. the night before. Every single night. Now that's important. Many students struggle to wake up at 5, 6, 7 a.m. And of course they will, if they went to sleep at 3 a.m. The third thing that I did to train myself to become more self-disciplined was I rewarded myself every night. Self-discipline doesn't mean your new schedule has to involve your studying for every second of the day. In fact, giving yourself zero wiggle room often results in failures, disappointments, and going back to your old ways. While practicing self-control, schedule specific breaks, treats, and rewards for yourself. If I studied well during the day and I concentrated well and I didn't procrastinate, for 1 hour that night, I would just relax and read a book, or go out with friends, or even just watch Netflix for an hour. It's important to know when to relax and when not to. If you've had a productive day and you've got a lot done, then make sure you reward yourself. In the long run, you'll thank yourself for it. So, now it's your turn. Stop letting your self-discipline get in the way of where you need to be in life. You know what you need to do to fix it. So fix it. Because you won't find anyone on this planet that is massively successful that doesn't have extremely high levels of self-discipline. It's one of the most important underlying factors that determines whether or not someone will be successful in the future. If you can't even bring yourself to study, how are you going to manage the thousands of hours of working on your craft to become among the best in your field of work? Whatever you want to become. You can't win the war against the world if you can't win the war against your own mind. Whatever your dreams and goals are, self-discipline is how you're going to get there. You need to respect yourself more. Because if you respected yourself, you wouldn't let yourself procrastinate the entire day. You wouldn't hold yourself back from achieving phenomenal success. If you respected yourself, you would do what's best for you. And that means not watching Netflix for 4 hours a day. It means not scrolling through your Instagram feed 50 times a day. It means not hanging out with friends when you know you have deadlines the next morning. You're worth more than that. One of the common similarities that I notice with most of the emails I receive from students is that they have put self-limiting restrictions on their own academic performance. They don't believe they can climb to the top of their class. Therefore, they don't even bother trying. They're not even trying to implement self-discipline because they don't believe it's even possible. And the first thing I always say is, it's time to destroy your self-limiting beliefs, because we all have them, to some extent. Obtaining the grades you dream of is absolutely achievable, if you believe it is. In the words of Will Smith, 99% of people are not willing to do what it takes to make their dreams come true. The center of bringing any dream into fruition is self-discipline. It's about being in control of your mind, to choose actions that are in your own best interest. Every day we are choosing to procrastinate, and that's just not in our own best interest. Right now you're not letting yourself reach your dreams. Fault and responsibility do not go together. It sucks, but they just don't. When we blame someone else, it's us pushing the responsibility to them and trying to get them to fix it. But that's not how it works. Especially when it's about your own studying. Your studying, your life, your happiness is your responsibility, and your responsibility alone. As long as we're pointing the finger and stuck in whose fault something is, we're jammed and trapped in victim mode. And when we're in victim mode, we're stuck in suffering. The road to power is in taking responsibility. And if you still can't muster up enough self-discipline to start studying, try this. Close your eyes. Envision what it feels like when you're done. When you're done with your 8 hours of studying, when you get to the exam hall and you open your exam paper and you quickly scan the questions and you know the answer to every single question. When you get your exam results and your friends ask what grade you got, and you can proudly tell them. When you're graduating with a 4.0 GPA, and your family are so proud to show you off. You can make it happen.
You can make it happen. You just have to have the right mindset and self-discipline. It's been a tough year. Of course, with COVID-19, with the world in lockdown, with you having limited time in school, particularly last year, it's been tough. We can make excuses. We can hide behind the things that have gone wrong, things that have been beyond our control. Or we can have a positive mindset. We can believe in ourselves and know we can overcome difficulties. I hear one or two students sometimes complaining a little bit too much that, oh, this happened, that happened. If this hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. But it's in the past. You can wallow in the past, or you can look to the future and you can take positive action to make good things happen. There's some work which has been done at the University of Stanford in the United States by Carol Dweck. Now, Carol Dweck has studied something called a growth mindset. Now, the opposite of the growth mindset is the fixed mindset. Nothing's ever going to change. My intelligence is fixed. I can't move it because it's a fixed number. The research that she's led at Stanford suggests that we can, if we adopt a growth mindset, if we believe in ourselves, that we can move forward and grow and develop. So watch this video and find out a little bit more about developing a growth mindset.
11 proven strategies to develop a growth mindset. Want to learn a major principle of personal success? It's having what's called a growth mindset. Hi, my name is Joy, and in this 7-minute success video, I'll be talking about 11 proven strategies you can use to develop a growth mindset in your life. But first, let's talk about another type of mindset. According to Stanford professor and author Carol Dweck, there are 2 types of mindsets: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset people believe their personal traits can't be changed. These people document their intelligence and talents rather than work to improve on them. Their core belief is that talent alone leads to success. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset believe learning and intelligence can grow with time and experience. They realize that effort has an effect on their success, so they're willing to put in extra time and more work. They believe that basic abilities are just a starting point for what can be achieved in life. So, the bottom line? If you'd like to reach your full potential, then the simplest way to do it is to develop a growth mindset. And here are 11 ways to make this happen. 1. View challenges as opportunities. We are constantly faced with important decisions, such as whether to accept a new job or signing up to take a new class. Taking on these challenges is a big part of developing as a person. The more we challenge ourselves, the more opportunities we have to learn about what makes us tick. Simply put, new challenges equal new opportunities. So to develop that growth mindset, look for different ways to challenge yourself, push yourself, and learn new things. 2. Prioritize learning over seeking approval. When you're more concerned about other people's approval, you miss out on many opportunities to grow. So stop worrying about what other people think. Instead, focus on bettering yourself for your own benefit. 3. Focus on the process instead of the end result. People who have a growth mindset also have a willingness to learn. That's why it's important to enjoy the learning process so you're able to get the most from each experience. Sure, it's important to have goals, but one of the keys to success is to learn valuable lessons as you deal with unexpected challenges. 4. Cultivate a sense of purpose. People with a growth mindset can look at long-term goals and have a larger sense of purpose for their lives. So keep the end goal in mind and always look at the big picture. Ask yourself the following on a regular basis. Is what you're currently working on part of a major life goal? If you frequently say no to this question, then take time to reevaluate your priorities. 5. Choose learning well over learning fast. This goes back to strategy 3. Learning isn't something that can be rushed. You should be willing to make mistakes and experience challenges. Which leads us to 6. Making mistakes does not mean you're a failure. You're not a failure if you need to improve on something. In fact, making a mistake simply means that you're on the right track. You're just not there yet. So in the words of Thomas Edison, never get discouraged if you fail. Learn from it. Keep trying. And speaking of mistakes, number 7, learn from the mistakes of others. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people, but when you see someone make a mistake, keep it in mind for the future when you're in a similar situation. Pretend that it was you making the mistake and ask yourself, how can I apply this hard lesson to my life? 8. Learn to receive constructive criticism. Think of criticism as a teachable moment. If you're weak in one area and someone points it out to you, use this as a signal that you should work on this area of your life. Don't take constructive criticism personally. Often these people are trying to help you. So think of criticism as a way to learn and grow as a person. 9. Cultivate grit. According to Angela Duckworth, grit is a perseverance and passion for long-term goals. You can break this concept into 2 components. First, the ability to stick to long-term goals, and secondly, the ability to keep going despite adversity. So if you'd like to learn how to keep going whenever you're experiencing adversity, then I recommend reading Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, and implementing the strategies that Duckworth outlines in her book. 10. Set a new goal for every milestone you achieve. Success is an ongoing process. Growth-minded people are constantly creating new goals so they can stay motivated in their professional and personal projects. Personal growth is never finished, as there's always another goal to reach or another interesting project to tackle. 11. Remember that it takes time to succeed in anything. Nothing worth doing comes quickly and easily. You have to be realistic about the time it takes to learn new information, implement it, and figure out what actually works. So bottom line, if you'd like to truly master something in your life, be prepared to work at it for a long time. So, there you have it. 11 proven ways to develop the growth mindset. Do you feel like there's something to be learned by embracing a growth mindset? Or do you often feel trapped by the limitations of a fixed mindset?
So with a fixed mindset, you just accept that you're never going to change, you're never going to develop, you're never going to progress. So it is worth adopting a growth mindset to have a positive outlook on life as a learner and as a person. Going back to the beginning of what I said about self-discipline, it can be applied obviously to academics, but also to avoiding fights, avoiding bullying. We can change our mindset and the way we treat people, and we can change our mindset as to who we are as learners, and we become better learners. So to end the assembly, I want to play you one of my favorite poems, which is a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling. And as you listen to it, just listen to the words and listen to the fact that there is an opportunity to grow, to develop, to become better, to be a better person, to be a better you, to be a better me. After you've listened to it, there's no actual homework as such this week. All I would like to do is encourage you to work hard, study hard, develop self-discipline, believe in yourself, believe that you can grow, believe you can be better, and just practice these things. Put them into place in your everyday life. That's more important than me setting you homework on this particular occasion. You've got the vacation, the holiday coming up. Use the time wisely, particularly if you've got exams coming up. Do not procrastinate. Use the time wisely, because one thing you'll find, you never get the time back.
The Kipling poem is one of my favorites since I was a boy at school. My father read it to me once. And I think it to me as a little boy, it summed up what a man should be. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor look too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life for broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at the beginning, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are done, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 40 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.